Bags of sago, flour and rice, black tea, sugar, trickle so nice. Green peas, yellow peas, soaked overnight, all gathered together in a big old sugar bag. I remember going down the ration shed, my two brothers.
Many tribes, one community.
Hello everybody, this is Dean Saffron in the Ration Shed Museum with new stories of the Ration Shed. When you come to the Ration Shed Museum, you will have the opportunity to experience how life was and is in our dynamic Aboriginal community, Cherbourg. New stories from the community are also important, as we are many tribes, one community, that continue to thrive and are proud, very proud First Nation people. Today's guest is Stacey, who has been the coordinator for the past 6 years of the Ration Shed Museum, Cherbourg. Today's topic is, am I black enough? Both Stacey and I have to live in two worlds, being Aboriginal and being proud, but also looking white. Thanks for coming on, Stacey.
Thanks for having me. It's something that has like a lot of deep roots, being a fair-skinned Aboriginal. And like you said, you can see things from two perspectives because, for one, we're Indigenous, but we're also European or of some other descent. So, there's the conflictions there from both spectrums that you receive, yeah.
It's so true. Like, I've got to the point now, because every day someone stops me and says, are you really Aboriginal? Do Aboriginal people accept you? Well, I totally am.
Yeah.
It is hard for us because, like, both of us look in the mirror every day.
Yes.
And have to put up with seeing colonisation. And it's definitely not who we are.
No.
We live by law, we're as black as you can get.
Yeah.
Can you tell me some examples of how it's impeded your life as a young person when you were, say, at school?
Yeah, so I remember sort of growing up in this area, the South, which is the South Burnett, and sort of being a bit, like, obviously dark enough to register that I'm Aboriginal, but not quite, very, like, not very dark. And sort of the complexities of, all right, well, you don't really fit in with a lot of the darker skinned people, but then the white people sort of really made it quite clear that you're of Aboriginal descent and shunned you for that too. So you really live your life in this kind of no man's live on your own land in terms of you kind of learn to define yourself. Yeah. Like, who am I? And I'll do this on my own, and I'm going to be proud of what I am. And along the way, people have learned who I am in the area, and some people love me, some people don't, and that's cool. So yeah, it comes from both sides, and it's really complex. You get obviously asked by mob, like, some recognize you and go, hey, who's your mob? Where are you from? Such a common thing. And then you've got the others going, well, are you even Aboriginal? Like, who's your mob? Where are you from? On the other end of that. And then you've got white fellas like who say things like, oh, are you even black? Or, why do you claim Aboriginal? You're very fair. Why would you claim that? Like, for example, I've got family members who, obviously in-laws and stuff, who are white, and they say when they're bringing up things about Indigenous affairs and stuff like that, I say, well, I'm black. And they're like, oh, no, you're not, Stacey. You're not black. We don't see you like that. And it really annoys me because I'm thinking, what do you mean by that statement? Like, I'm actually I'm very proud of my heritage. There's also the other side where you can also be proud of your European descent as well, because that's part of you as well. And I think you get a little shunned if you do that as well on the Aboriginal side of it. So yeah, there's so much there.
I love it. What is your heritage on both sides?
So my mother's a Noongar Yamaji woman from Fremantle region in Western Australia, and Mum was brought over here in the early 70s. She was adopted out. So she was taken off Nan, put into group homes over there with my uncle, adopted out. So virtually part of the stolen, last into the stolen generations. And she obviously, again, like I said, was adopted out, brought over to the Esk region. So I was born and raised over here. And then my dad is an Italian man. So I am half Aboriginal, half Italian.
So where do you sit with food? Do you like your bush
Very
tucker?
confused, I think.
I mean, because I'd be there going, and I put my bush tucker on some pizza.
Maybe on some pasta. It'll go good. Yeah.
Well, look, that's really interesting. Now, I've also got that same sort of situation on my background. I think that's why we gel so much. But
yeah.
What about your mum? Did she ever talk about life to you and what it was like for her to be taken so far away?
Yeah, so I had a chance to talk to mum a lot about her upbringing and sort of the real extreme racism that mum sort of copped growing up, and it stemmed into her adult life, obviously growing up in the 70s and then 80s and stuff on the abolishment of the Protection Act. Mum sort of lived through that. So that sort of grew this fire inside of me, or like, from a very young age, that Indigenous people were very mistreated, and I knew that, and I think it's something you're born within you as an Aboriginal person. You just get this, you have this fire of culture that just sits in you. Talking to mum and learning sort of a lot of what my family went through in Western Australia under the Protection Act, which is quite similar to what we teach here at the Ration Shed. Again, why I love this place, it's so magical. And then kind of half living in the white world as well, because I was actually adopted out when I was 2 years old, and I was raised by white fathers. And a lovely family, don't get me wrong, but they really did not bring out my Aboriginality. I think there was a sense of like a bit of shame there. So they sort of really tried to kind of wipe that from myself. Like they would, like my foster father would tell me, oh, you've got to work twice as hard because you're an Aboriginal woman to prove yourself. And I sort of, when I was younger, I sort of thought, oh, well, he's just being nasty. But I do see where he's coming from, because yeah, as an Aboriginal woman, you do have to fight a lot harder because there's stigma and there's judgment, and you feel like you have to prove yourself. And that's sad that we have to, but it did again ignite that fire in me. So I did see both sides of the world, but I did feel like I struggled to fit in either way as well. And I went on a little bit of a self journey kind of thing. Like I'd been in relationships with men, and I felt like I had to lie about my Aboriginality, very early on when I was young, because, you do have that judgment. And I have experienced racism from a very young age. I was in and out of the foster system, and I remember, I think I was probably about 6 years old, and it was an ESC, and I'm obviously not going to name names and whatnot, but being told I had to sit outside on the veranda because my kind wasn't allowed in their home. Yeah, and then on the other end of it, again, on the Indigenous side, being asked and being made to justify or explain myself as to why I'm Aboriginal and prove my Aboriginality, which was really frustrating.
Wow, we've got to unpass all of that.
Yeah.
Sticking in my mind is, tell me about you had to tell boyfriends, you hid your identity from someone that you're loving at the time. How do you do that?
Very hard, I guess, because they sort of would ask me like straight up, well, are you Aboriginal, because you look like it? And I'd just go, oh, well, I'm actually Italian. I would use that side of it, and I'd be more like inclined to say, yes, I'm Italian. But then I guess I got a little bit older and wiser and lived a little bit more life, and then I was like, well, I am what I am, and I have to own that. And I think coming to the Ration Shed really ignited that flame in me, learning to, like, going down the journey of like learning to be proud of myself, and learning a little bit more about the history of assimilation and the removal protection acts and forcible removals of children, and the dilution of our culture, and why there is so many of us fair ones out there. It all makes sense to me now, and I'm a lot more proud of it, because now I have the MO to go, well, here's the facts, because I've educated myself. But it was difficult, and I did feel kind of like shameful for myself to do that. Definitely looking back on it now, and at the time I did, because I felt like I had to lie about half of who I was just to feel accepted. But now, like, 15, 20 years on, I'd be like, well, stuff you, I am what I am. If you don't accept me, go away. Like, it's that simple. Keep walking. Go be judgmental in someone else's space. So it's, obviously we all develop and change and grow, but it's been an interesting path, and I'm just really, really lucky that I get to do it in such a magical place, because I come across so many people that are like, I just found out I'm Aboriginal. Ration Shed is like that. They come to this place to put two and two together and to find those connections. And I'm proud to be a part of that, because I sort of went through a little bit of that journey myself. And yeah, it does get hard in sometimes when, you're very passionate about something and people do kind of like, shun you for who you are.
When someone comes to the Ration Shed, because all of us have to go through that journey, even if you know that it's there, because the government made it impossible with records for most of the people out there to actually find who they are. It took me 20 years. What do you say as a person who's been through that when someone comes into the Ration Shed and says to you, hey, look, I'm so excited, I'm here, I'm on my journey. How do you guide them?
Oh, I'm like, well, that's so fantastic. I'm so happy that you're here. I said, first of all, take a look around, like get to know the history. And then I sort of give them all the link ups. Like I give them all the organizations that can help them and ask and like sort of just listen to their story because, people like, first of all, to be heard, don't they? Yeah. And I just thank you for considering us. Thanks for being here.
Have you heard back from people?
Yeah. So some people have emailed back and gone, yeah, I've managed to find an auntie while on community or, I sometimes will pass on their numbers to certain elders within the community and then they go and give them a heap and they'll email me back. Thank you for that. Or they'll call back and say, thank you for that. Different organizations out there that I link them up with. And so, yeah, I feel very privileged to help people in their journeys, because, I know myself, it was a struggle. So it's wonderful that I get to see other people on their way. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you are doing what your ancestors want you to do. You're helping other people in the same situation.
Yeah. So I had a local elder here. He's very well known and he's a very wise man and someone who I love and respect a lot. And we actually spoke about this before I came on to this show because I wanted to, just get his advice on how to approach it. Living around here in community and, not wanting to really come across like I'm being confrontational, but also wanting to express how I do feel being, it gets thrown in your face. You're not from here, quite often. So how do I approach this uncle? And he's like, oh, look, at the end of the day, old girl, he calls me old girl. It's a sign of endearment. I guess he tells me it is. He said,
When you are like 30 something, I mean, my
so old.
Hey, when you get to my age, you'll start calling you like great grandmother.
Yeah, I reckon we might have to. Yeah, so he told me, old girl, if you didn't feel at peace where you were, then you shouldn't be here. Them old people are you're feeling at peace because them old people like you here. They like what you're doing. And I said, uncle, I do feel at peace here. I've never felt more at peace anywhere. I live just out the back of the forestry here in Cherbourg. And I feel so calm and at peace. And he said, at the end of the day too, he said, we all come from different mobs. And this is really what hit home and it made me think about it. He's like, we all come from different mobs in different areas. He said, but every single one of us have one thing in common. We're all blackfellas and we all got something in common. We can all teach each other something. So I definitely feel a lot more welcomed on the Aboriginal side of things, which is amazing. White side, there's a lot more kind of a deeper social barrier, I think. Miscommunication. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of lack of education and stigma and judgment passed down. And a lot of people in greater society just don't take the time to get to know Aboriginal people. Have you ever actually spoken to an Aboriginal? Have you sat down and got to know an Aboriginal person? And then secondly, I ask, well, where did you hear that? Did you read that on Facebook? So it must be factual.
Oh my goodness.
I call it out. And that's what you do. You call it out. And most of the time they're just like, oh, I don't know. Well, where did you read it?
People will see my totem or my other tattoo, which is as obvious black as you can get. Mm-hmm. And they'll say to me, but you don't look like the guy from Crocodile Dundee. The iconic advertising that has hit Australia forever has been the Northern Territory mob. Now, they have a particular look.
The darker skinned, yeah.
Yes, and, their facial features are completely different to where I come from, Kamilaroi Nation, which are more Chinese and, that Asian.
You sort of have the ones from Melbourne and Victoria and stuff, they call themselves concrete Murris because, they're the more urban Murri, yes, like blackfellas or Murris or whatever you want to call them from that region. Yeah, so there's that side of it. I completely get what you're saying. In Western Australia, we're also very Asian influenced because of the pearl divers and stuff like that. Traditionally, we used to kind of swap goods with them. And, we have such a diverse history. It's a strange one because, if you look at an American, the African Americans, they're black, right? And they would think we were quite strange when they saw these fair people in Australia going, oh, we're black. Yes. But it's hard to explain. It's just such a thing that's in you that it just screams out at you, inside of you, like your Aboriginality. It's just right from birth. It's just part of you. It is.
It's like I really want the listeners to learn is that our culture is genetically in us.
Yeah.
We do things that we've done from birth that we don't know why we do them
Yeah.
until you talk to an elder and they go,
Yeah.
well, that's how we do X, Y, Z.
You know, there's also a lot of things in the art sector as well. You know, I do work in the art sector, so you know, photographers and filmmaking and acting and stuff like that. You know, it's harder for the fairer skinned ones to get jobs and roles in those situations because when you show up to an interview, they're looking for that darker face.
Yes.
You know, and you're feeling like you're walking and having to justify your Aboriginality to them because they're looking for that, like you said, that stereotypical darker skinned person. And, you know, it's sad because it really doesn't shine a light on the history of Indigenous Australia. You know, that assimilation, that breakdown of culture, that, you know, diversity that we now have.
It's compounding the stereotype that everyone thinks of Aboriginal people.
Yes.
And I think that it will change, though, because people are slowly... I think the younger generation are more aware. I mean, did you have this when I was sitting in school? You're much younger than me, but when I sat in school, literally for the first 10 years of my life, they still had the Protection Act. They were still stealing our children. And people literally, when you would learn about history of Aboriginal people, they were talking about it like we're an ancient civilization that didn't exist anymore.
Yeah, in the past tense.
In the past tense. I'm like, well, no, I'm sitting here and my cousins are still around. And that's the funniest thing. Like, as I talk to the tourists all the time, they just don't get it and they go, oh, but you were bred out.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing we have to fight with. But do people, when you were younger and dating, did they ever say to you, you're pretty for an Aboriginal?
Yeah.
Can you just explain what the heck that means on both sides for me?
Well, for one, it's terribly horrible because you're saying that other majority of other beautiful Aboriginal women are not pretty and they are stunning.
Yes, they are.
And also it's an insult. I don't find that's a compliment at all. Like, just because I'm Aboriginal doesn't mean what does that mean I'm not going to be attractive? I always felt insulted. I never felt complimented by it. I was always like, you know, it's quite rude. You know, I know quite a few beautiful Aboriginal women. Like, I've got 2 daughters that are absolutely stunning, you know, and one of them's very dark skinned, the other's fairer like myself, and they're both stunning girls. And a lot of other women around that I've seen that are stunners.
What would you say if the entire white population were listening to this? What sort of thing would you like to say to them about understanding the new Aboriginal people since colonisation?
Okay, I would love to say that we are not all the same. And just because you see negativity with one Aboriginal person does not mean that you're going to see negativity in the next Aboriginal person. It would be like saying that all you white fellas are exactly the same, because one of you's a bad stick, not all of you are a bad stick. If you want to get to know us, come and get to know us. We're so open. This Cherbourg is a wonderful place. They invite visitors out here all the time. So if you want to come out here and get to know the mob, come and ask. Sit down and talk. Ask the questions. And don't believe everything that you see on social media.
That's brilliant. And what would you say to mob?
That we're all one mob. We all have one thing in common. We are all Aboriginal.
I love it. Is there any other parting things you would like to say to the world?
You just be proud of who you are, where you come from. Honestly, be proud of you because, you know, that's your identity is everything. It's who you are. Be proud of it. And if the next people around you the next person doesn't accept that, then that's on them, not on you.
So thank you, Stacey, for coming on.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me, and hopefully someone out there can relate.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a fantastic day and stay tuned for another episode of the Ration Shed Museum's News Stories. And remember, like Uncle says, we are
Many tribes, one community.